Hello everybody, welcome to yet another edition of Be Famous. They say that perception is a matter of the heart. And for some people who think of beer and cannot think of anything but a pot belly, there is somebody who perceived beer to be associated with biceps. So here I give you Ranveer Allahbadia, aka BeerBiceps.
Hey.
Thank you so much for joining us at Be Famous.
Happy to be here, sir.
So would love to start with this question on how did that name BeerBiceps come about?
I feel like in this game of influencers and content, you have to stand out. So I'm going to use the analogy of WWE, WWF.
Yeah.
You'll always remember the wrestler's name, which was Lil Hatke.
Right.
You know, you'll remember The Undertaker, you'll remember Triple H. So that was honestly the logic here. I started off as a fitness and cooking channel. And there was too many people with very generic channels. Back then I thought that, okay, what can I do that's memorable, slightly different, and slightly a little bit crazy, because I wanted to be a representation of my personality. So I wanted to represent the idea that fitness can be paired with fun. The thing is, we don't do any fitness videos anymore. I don't drink anymore myself, but I couldn't drop off the name because I think the name is just memorable.
It's just become so huge, right, as a brand.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of right place, right time. But in my heart, I still wish to drop the name. In my brain won't allow me to. So
Wow.
let's see.
Wow. What were the options that you toyed with? How did BeerBiceps get chosen? Was it you who coined that name or was it a friend?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just being very transparent here. We have 3 other businesses as well, like other than BeerBiceps, and I've named all 3. And the names will always just drop into my head. Like my co-founders will always just agree. So I don't know how this name came up, but there was no other name I toyed with other than my actual name, which is Ranveer Allahbadia, which is the Hindi brand that we also run. We have a Hindi YouTube channel as well.
Right.
If you want to talk to Indian masses, you can't go with a name like BeerBiceps.
Exactly.
So BeerBiceps is great for urban audiences and international audiences, but for the Hindi audience, India is an icon worshipping country. If you go with your actual name, your authentic name, they appreciate that more.
Coming to that toying between like 2 personalities, BeerBiceps and Ranveer Allahbadia, how do you kind of, decide which name to use where and how?
It totally depends on which audience I'm talking to and how I'm feeling on that day. I have like 14 more personalities back home. These are the 2 that I'll unleash on the internet.
Wow.
I feel it's totally about the audience you're talking to. We live in a day and age where you can play both a massy and a classy game. So, why should you miss out on either audience? This is how I look at it.
Coming to this thing about you started off as a, cooking and fitness channel, but somewhere along the way you just decided to take that detour into spirituality. Was this a happy accident or was this intentional?
See, sir, I think with YouTube, the reality is if you want to run a YouTube channel in the long term, it's like taking your soul, cutting off pieces of your soul and giving it to the internet. That's actually how it is. Like you're trading away your personal life, you're trading away your thoughts. So you can start off your YouTube channel with a lot of ideas. You'll have 100 ideas and those 100 ideas will get done in a year's time. So what do you make after that? The only way you can sustain your YouTube channel is if it's a reflection of what's actually happening in your life. So as my life progressed, my YouTube channel kept changing. For example, in college, it was all about fitness and fun, which is why it started off as cooking and fitness and all this. Then it gradually became a fashion and grooming channel. Then once I finished all that content, I realized, people listen to me because I think I have good communication skills. So I became a personality development YouTuber. Now, in the middle of all these things, I was running some businesses as well. I started my own talent management firm. That taught me a lot about how to start up in life, how to start up a business. And then started making a lot of entrepreneurship-based content, personal finance-based content. Whatever I was growing up with, I was just passing on. And at this stage of my life, I'm going to turn 30 in 6 months. And I've come to realize so much about the concept of material wealth, money, spiritualism through the people I meet through my podcast. You meet monks, you meet military personnel, you meet Bollywood actors, you meet cricketers, you meet business people, and everyone's got a different outlook on life. But if you get to talk to everyone, you eventually realize that happiness is not found in money. So that's what I'm trying to tell people at this stage.
What was that moment when you decided that, okay, I need to shift towards spirituality in the content that I put out?
In the content, it was the podcast, honestly, just meeting monks. So the thing with podcasts or interviews is that you usually have to prepare a lot for interviews, like to do a good job, because then you know about where your guest has gone in life and where you can take your guest in the interview. There was a podcast with someone called Gaur Gopal Das Prabhu. He's a monk from ISKCON.
Yeah.
And for some reason that day I decided I won't prepare. I'm just going to ask him my own questions. Exactly what I'm going through in life, I'm going to ask him those questions. And that became our biggest hit podcast in our first phase. He was our 20th episode that time. It was such a nice, genuine conversation that I figured that if I enjoyed it so much, and it was my genuine questions, and the audience also liked it, maybe I answered a lot of people's questions through my own questions. And then I just realized that it's fine, the views will follow, but keep it very authentic. Just have a conversation and things will fall into place. So that was when I decided to bring on a lot more monks, a lot of people from different religions, a lot of people from different occupations, all sorts of stuff. I had a mentor right out of college who basically, there was this whole hype about something called DMT back then. There's a podcaster called Joe Rogan in America, and he talks a lot about DMT experiences. And DMT is a drug.
Oh.
Okay, so, but in the West, it's being used for neurology. So I was discussing this with my mentor. I was telling him that, the world of neurology is understanding this new thing called DMT. And he told me, yeah, do you know that when you meditate, DMT is also released in your brain, but a little bit. So why don't you try that? And I was very against the idea of meditation. But I purely tried it to see what will happen. And I was also lifting weights a lot that time. And I'd read somewhere that meditation, because it changes the way you breathe, changes your breathing pattern, that has an effect on your heartbeat, which has an effect on your hormonal system. So I was just experimenting. But the first time I meditated, I did a 20-minute meditation session. I opened my eyes and I felt like all these colors around me were more saturated. I could see more. I was feeling more creative. I was feeling a lot calmer. Then I just stuck to it, because the one thing that weight training has taught me is that you only see results from a process if you stick to it for like really long. And now we're here just doing all this meditation content. I'm building my own meditation app because it's helped me so much in my career. I really want to take that message out, not just to India, but to the world. So let's see, start of something new.
An engineer who comes from a family of doctors, I'm told. How difficult was this to kind of put everything aside and just jump into the digital world where you don't know how tomorrow's going to be?
I almost got thrown out of my house. So that's the truth. It wasn't simple. But it's fine. It's Indian society. It wasn't easy at all even to take up engineering college, because I'm from a family where there's 3 generations of doctors before me.
Wow.
Like from my great-grandparents this time. It was expected that I'll become a doctor, but one of my personality traits is that I hate blood. Like I don't like seeing blood. So I decided very early on in life that I just can't do this. I don't want to see blood. I don't want to see this much pain on a daily basis. That's why engineering happened. And post-engineering, the thing is, after you go through that 3 idiots type of reality, where professors will shoot you down, where you're overloaded with work, etc., you just become ready for any occupation. I know there's a lot of engineers watching this. They know exactly what I'm saying. There's a lot of partying and chilling as well in engineering college. There's a lot of different perspectives you learn from. But the grind you go through during...
And a lot of DMT in engineering.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe the cousin of DMT. Those kind of things happen as well. It just gets you ready for the real world, and you can kind of mold yourself into any career. That's why you see Vicky Kaushals, you see Anil Kumble's, you see Viraj Sheth's and Ranveer's from Monkey. You see so many other content creators also who are actually engineers. The world of content, YouTubing, even startups for that matter, it's just about going and learning the basics and then growing from there. I didn't know how to use cameras. I didn't know how to use mics. I didn't know what a podcast is. I didn't know what content is. But it's very learnable. And that's also one of the big messages we try to put out there. That we keep talking about how India is the fastest growing country in the world. The GDP rate is XYZ, whatever. That means there's a lot of opportunity to make money. That means there's business opportunity. That means there's personal branding opportunity. That means there's opportunity for influencer marketing and for creating content for businesses in general. So it's a great skill for people to learn. It's a very learnable skill. but you need to enjoy the process.
How have you kind of grown, and how did the ecosystem around you kind of help you grow?
So we started in 2015, where people used to laugh at the concept of influencer marketing, and the kind of days we've seen where just you'll go up to startups, you'll go up to big corporations, at these conferences, you'll tell them that, listen, let us do this for you. And parallelly on YouTube, you're doing 500,000 views, 1 million views. Back in the day, this is before Geo. You're talking to an audience that's ready to lap up products. Okay? No one got convinced. Everyone was still in that old mindset of, no, I'll go down the traditional route of advertising, brand taglines and all, which I feel now are almost irrelevant. And the world of advertising won't like this statement because they're still kind of stuck in the past. That's what I believe. But we all know influencer marketing has kind of changed the game. And definitely there's a lot of junk in the world of influencer marketing as well. If you work with the wrong influencers, that's not effective influencer marketing. But if you do it the right way, whether you're a startup, whether you're a big corporation, you can kind of create the results you want if you have clarity as a brand. If you want to generate sales, you can do that through influencer marketing. If you want to just get your brand out there, if you want to get brand taglines out there, that's possible. People are still learning the art of influencer marketing, which is why there's, this opportunity for influencer agencies to come in. This is an art, but it's an effective art, and we have data to back it. The first few deals we did for very, very low income, we didn't make much money off it.
So can you kind of take us back and say that how low was it?
It started off at 7,000 rupees, then we gradually built out from there. Wow. That same thing that we sold for 7,000 rupees is probably, it's more than 100 times that
value today.
Yeah, maybe even more than that, 120, 130 times. What's the same, it was an Instagram post. And that number is just going up because we know we can generate that kind of value for brands.
Right.
And we have generated, data to back our claims. One of the early brands we did done something with a big company for a clothing iron. Okay. The logic behind influencer marketing is the human life is getting lonelier as we move forward in time. That means people have lesser real life relationships. They have lesser amount of friendships. They don't have that many friends. The difference between a Bollywood ambassador and an influencer is that the audience perceives the influencer as their friend. So this is a very high impact way of creating word of mouth marketing.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's another version of word of mouth marketing where the influencer says, listen, you can trust me because you watch my videos literally every day. You know my life inside out. This is what's worked for me. This is what should work for you. Definitely, then there's a lot of ethics that come in, with the influencer's life, etc. But the audience is really smart and they can see through influencers. If you're promoting McDonald's today, don't promote Burger King tomorrow. If you're promoting Ariel today, don't promote Surf Excel tomorrow. But do not underestimate your audience as well, because if you start doing it, you start losing credibility. Your audience starts getting detached from you, which is why we see so many influencers fading away. But the ones that survive have survived based on building that trust. Okay, so back then we had just started doing fashion videos. I was teaching guys about how to dress, etc. And it was a simple point I made in my video that if you want to look nicer, just ensure you wear iron clothes. It's a very simple point. You'd be surprised at how many Indian guys didn't know that. The immediate impulse is, okay, I need to iron my clothes. Can you teach me how to iron? So I said, sure. So in the video, I showed basics of ironing a shirt. That's it. Okay. That's why we integrated the brand.
So
we said that I use this iron.
So did you go to that brand or did they come to you?
The brand came to us, didn't pay us well. Because we generated our results on that particular deal were that for each eyeball that they, for each pair of eyeballs that they captured, they had spent only 0.3 paise, which is not at all bad. Plus we generated sales for the brand. We had a link which was actually counting how many sales of that particular iron happened. So they probably, because of how much they paid us, they must have made 1000x revenue. Because that video blew up. It got a lot of views because I was talking to basic guys about basic fashion rules. It's a very raw example of influencer marketing. Over time, we worked across segments, we worked across categories, etc. I'm still surprised that people don't understand the power of this game. But I also kind of don't blame them because the influencer space is overcrowded.
Yeah. And everybody is an influencer these days, right?
You need to know, how when you go for a buffet, not all the food is nice, but some things are outstanding. Now, you need a chef to come and tell you, listen, I think that particular dish is outstanding. That's what influencer agencies do, which is why there is a role for agencies in this whole thing.
So how do you separate the wheat from the chaff? That's the question.
I can give you the raw input. You look at comment sections on Instagram, you look at replies on Twitter, you look at comment sections on YouTube. And ideally, as a brand owner, you try working with the creators that you yourself as a human being follow on social media. Where you say, okay, if this person had recommended my brand, I probably would have bought it. Or you ask your loved ones, you ask your friends, what do you think of this person? Can I work with them? Sometimes even working with one influencer can really pivot the trajectory of your brand. See, your influencer will get your brand eyeballs. Whether they buy it or not, obviously depends on your price points, etc., etc. For example, right now, when I'm launching my meditation app, every single video that we integrate my own app in, we get a huge number of downloads. And then it's down to my co-founder and his unit to convert those downloads into paid subscriptions.
Correct.
That's what brands need to understand. You'll be able to generate sales through influencer marketing, but then the rest of the journey that the consumer has with your brand is down to your product or service.
So that the audience knows, he manages over 100 influencers today with his own influencer marketing firm. So when did you decide that, now it was also the time to create more stars like you, rather than just grow your own personal brand?
The true story is, back then I had a girlfriend who told me my parents will not accept me dating a YouTuber unless you do something else as well. So I was like, okay, what do I do? I guess I can start a business. Hey, you, college junior, come, we'll start a business together. Let's manage all my friends. Boom, we have a business. My girlfriend and her family were happy. And then eventually we broke up, but that's a separate story. I was left with a business, and that's what worked. That's the true story. And we found ourselves in one of those spaces which was growing. So it was the best decision. I think sometimes life just forces you into where you're supposed to be. Because at that point, when I was dating that girl, I had the option of stepping into films as an actor or television as an actor, or stepping into business in the way that I did. And she told me that if you become an actor, I'll break up with you. So you better go into business. So life nudges you into those places. No complaints at all, because I totally enjoy what I do now. And it taught me the basics of business. And I'm applying those basics in other businesses now. So I think it was meant to be.
Is there a danger of fitting all of them into a formula saying, okay, Ranveer Allahbadia grew this way, so, everybody else follow that same template?
Anyone who grows to about 1 lakh of followers, like 100,000 followers on any platform, knows what they're doing. So they don't need us as a talent management firm to tell them what they're doing until they hit a plateau quite, far into the journey. Say, or you've crossed 1 million followers. Then you're kind of dried with content. Then you need a talent management firm to help you out and tell you, maybe you can do this, maybe you can do that. So everyone knows what they're doing. Where they need help is the back end. Management of finances, management of time, management of commitments, management of influencer marketing deals, etc.
Right.
And honestly, management of mental health as well. That's where they need help. Everyone needs friends. This is a very lonely industry, right? Because you're fighting for yourself. You're a one-man show, one-woman show. I think that's where Monkey, as a talent management firm, has really stood out, because I was a creator and the co-founder. I knew what I needed. I told my co-founder, listen, this is what I probably need. He had experience of being my own personal manager as well. So it's much more about the mental health side and having that long-term relationship with the person. That's what creators really crave.
And if we had to go just 7 years back in time when you just started off, if you had to rewrite any of those videos, which would they be?
I would do Hindi content much earlier. I waited for 3 years to do Hindi content. Started in 2018. And that's one of my regrets, but I don't think there's any point in having regrets. I just feel Hindi content, regional content in this country is 100 times more powerful. And the thing is, the argument that people kind of throw up is that, but the audience is not affording. The audience is not a high value audience, or they won't spend money on influencer marketing, which is probably true right now. It was more true in 2018, and it's becoming less true as we move forward. Because that audience is what? It's college kids mainly who are sitting in small town India. They're getting educated and they're using that education and the street smarts that they're picking off of YouTube to become more globalized and to become higher paid employees in cities, maybe in international firms, maybe as freelancers. So they're rapidly becoming a more affording audience. They're becoming richer. That's where the GDP of India is growing. So if you stick to the Hindi game right now and you sustain yourself for 10 years, there's a chance that you're becoming bigger than what Baba Ramdev has done with Patanjali. And that's effectively what he did. He spoke to that audience. There's a lot of free content on television for 15, 20 years. Built trust. Now he built a Patanjali. So my regret is I lost out on those 3 years. Though in the 7-year scheme of things, that's not that much. True. That means 4 years I've been doing it.
Yeah.
But I still have it as a regret. Because I would have probably been at 10x the number. I would have had first movers advantage in Hindi, which I don't know, which I had to work the hard way. I got it in Hindi podcasts, and now I intend on having a lot more first movers advantage with multiple things, but could have been a lot bigger.
Okay, so one is that you do spiritual content for, say, English YouTube and for Instagram, and you're doing sex education for Hindi YouTube. Is that a contrast as far as brand marketers are concerned, because they want that one image kind of to go across?
I think we live in a day and age where brand marketers, at least the smart ones, care much more about results and views. As long as you're generating very rapid growth, very rapid results for the brand, that's all that matters. Because with YouTube, putting up so much content, your brand automatically over time becomes extremely wide and elaborate. That's the only way you survive on YouTube. So I know I can generate results for someone who chooses to work with me, someone who pays me my fees for influencer marketing, and that's all that should matter.
Okay, and since we've spoken about views and reach, there are still a lot of skeptics who believe that a lot of things in digital can be bought, including the views, including the fans.
I don't think it's skeptics. It's true.
Yeah.
It totally can be bought. The truth is in the comment section and number of comments.
Can that be engineered?
Yeah, there are tech products out there which can even scan, your YouTube pieces or your Instagram pieces to see if you've bought likes, bought views. It's one of the biggest red flags for influencer agencies as well as the brand world. So a lot of content creators are getting smarter, not doing it anymore. Of course, there's a lot who are, because influencer careers are also status driven. They want to see 20,000 likes, 100,000 likes on their posts. But audiences are extremely intelligent and they know who's buying followers and views and likes and comments versus who's doing it organically. So don't underestimate the audiences. That's all I'll say.
Lovely one. Okay. Moving beyond that, okay, so you have also kind of diversified from, I think, a 2-person or a 3-person enterprise. I should tell the viewers that he is now 180 people working across 4 startups. Is there danger in growing too big too fast?
If there is a danger, I've not seen it yet. I don't know if I can answer that question. I'm enjoying myself. I have a friend, his name is Nas Daily. He's an international content creator.
Yes, of course.
He grew up in a refugee camp. And I had this same conversation with him. I asked him this too fast question, that too big, too fast. He said that, hey man, I'm from a refugee camp. And I think one of the nicest things you can do for another human being is give them a job. So if you're someone who's creating a job, not only are you doing good for those people, maybe their families, but you're also doing good for your nation. You're kind of doing good for society in some ways. That's how I choose to look at it now. That's my perspective right now. I don't look at growing too big, too fast as a bad thing because we're bootstrapped. If we had raised money and done all this, it's a different story. Maybe then, there's a question of what goes up must come down, etc. Like we're seeing with all these layoffs.
True.
We've not had to lay off anybody because we're profitable businesses throughout. And, God's been kind as well. There is an element of luck here. We've had the right people join us. And we know that these first 200 people who work with us in this ecosystem are all going to have big careers going forward as long as they choose to stick with us, because all my co-founders have extremely lofty goals. So while we haven't raised money yet, we will do it intelligently at some point in the future. It's a matter of when.
Right. And the meditation app that you spoke about is your first diversification beyond influencer
Yeah.
marketing.
Yeah. It's a D2C product, at least I
Yes.
look at it that way.
Yeah, so how did you kind of single in on this, or was it just a natural way of?
After a point, you just realize that if you just remain as a content creator, you're either Google or Facebook employee, effectively. But you're also generating traffic for them. How about I take some of that traffic and build my own community? That's the logic. That was the core logic of it. I'd built a successful bootstrap business. I knew I could build something deeper, more impactful. It's been very difficult. We've not raised a single rupee because we wanted to attempt a bootstrap game. It's been 2 years, but we found our first 1,000 paid subscribers on it already.
In your podcast, you get in a lot of speakers from various streams, including, tantrics and so on and so forth. How important is it to ensure that, the authentic information goes out, because your image is going out with it? So how do you kind of separate?
There have been podcasts where we've done it and then not released it for the same reason. Because the thing is, once you have a 3-hour conversation with someone, there's nothing that person can hide about themselves. Wow. Especially if you know how to really get into their head as an interview and you really spend time with them, the reality comes out. And again, audiences are smart, so they pick up on it. We've done 400 by this point. So we have a very intense screening process for guests. We do a lot of research before bringing someone on. And even if then the podcast doesn't work out the way we wished it did, we reject the piece. So there's a lot of research that goes in to just bring a particular guest.
Okay, and when you become so big, is it possible for you to kind of go through all that content with a magnifying glass, or do you just perform what your team writes for you?
Yeah, I think at this stage, it's very much like a cricket team, and I'm the opening batsman, and then the middle order does their job. The bowlers do their job. The middle order would be my editors, my data mining team. They're constantly scanning data for YouTube in order to make even better videos going forward. And my bowlers would be my entire back end, which is all my management staff, the people who actually handle my personal finances. I choose not to, because I want to stay in this artistic creative zone. I want to play opening batsman roles, which is just shoot a lot of content, figure out where the team should go, how fast should we play, how slow should we play. That's the way I look at work now, because to be able to do 3 other businesses along with YouTube, it does take a toll. And even on those businesses, I try doing just my creative artistic roles. I think I'm blessed with being in this position as a YouTuber. You get access to a lot of data. You get access to a lot of comment sections. You know where trends are going. You know where audiences are going. You know what the audience is going to think about next year based on the data that we see now. And these same ideologies can be applied in other businesses to improve your sales, to improve your numbers. So I have very supportive co-founders who let me be this artist and this kind of first thinking human being in those startups. And that's what works for me.
So they are doing the listening while you're doing the talking.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Ideation, marketing strategies. These things come out of my head because I have access to so much data. I kind of know what will work. And that's what YouTube is. You're constantly creating something from scratch. So to be able to do that over 8 years, you definitely need some data to just nudge you along the way. When you have some flagpoles, it allows you to think in some structure. So at this point, I just love where I'm at because we've released so much content. For example, something we released in 2016 didn't do well back then. Suddenly it does well now, and it does really, really well. It gets 100x the number of views. Suddenly, that shows a trend. Oh, people are now interested in stretching as a concept. That means if I show them a yoga video or if I build a yoga app, now is the time it'll do well. And it may not do well 2 years from now because that trend will get over. So this is just one example, but there's 1,000 things like this.
Okay, coming to the channels that you chose. Okay, it's been YouTube and Instagram predominantly. When you're playing the Hindi game, how important is it to be in those desi apps, if I may call it?
I don't think it's important.
Why?
See, to be on another app, you've got to put in that little extra effort as a creator. You've got to make fresh content. You can't just take content from here and put it there.
Right.
We've tried that and it's not really given us that much reach. For example, even Facebook pretty much now, we're running our pages, but it doesn't have any impact on our numbers at all. Right. The impact comes from YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. These 3 places. To some degree, WhatsApp, but that's a whole other conversation. But in terms of social media, it's these 3 which are the...
So how important is dark social for an influencer?
You mean like...
WhatsApp.
it depends on how the influencer looks at their own career and what they wish to do with it. If you want to build a niche community and build businesses out of it, then WhatsApp is important. Discord is important. Telegram is important. But if you've reached that point where you wish to really start businesses, etc. So someone like Tanmay Bhatt is doing it incredibly well with his Discord servers. He's got that community locked in. If you're getting into the whole Web3 game, you need those DAOs, etc. It depends totally on your goals. For me, it's important because I am business oriented. But maybe for someone who's trying to get into films as an actor after this influencer career, and there's a lot of them like that. Anyone who does comedy, that's usually the goal, to get into films or get into OTT. I don't think for them it's that important.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay, since we spoke about Web3, how far are you from getting into the metaverse from the metaphysical?
I'm waiting for the hardware to come in. These are great concepts. I'm a supporter of NFTs as well. I'm a supporter of crypto even now because I've met a lot of Web3 people and I understand it from an engineering perspective.
Right.
There is a future in Web3. Anyone who denies it is still kind of living in an old world mentality. And there'll be a lot of people who won't agree with me even while I say this right now. But if you actually deep dive into Web3 and understand that these applications can positively affect human life, and of course, there's a lot of junk in that ecosystem as well. If you have knowledge about both the junk and the applications, you might change your perspective on Web3. In the future, I think we are going to see Web3 oriented social media, which is what Mark Zuckerberg is trying to do at Facebook. That's why he's renamed the company Meta. You should hear some of Mark Zuckerberg's podcasts and see how Web3 oriented he is himself. The leader of the modern day internet is also motivated about it. So there must be something in Web3, but we're far away from having influencers really, really be in on it in the mainstream. I think we're at least 3 to 4 years away.
What's your favorite hashtag?
Favorite hashtag is strive for greatness.
Okay. Why spirituality?
Because it can lubricate your life. It makes life easier.
Wildest dream?
Is to have Cristiano Ronaldo on my show.
Favorite book?
Autobiography of a Yogi.
Form of meditation that you chose?
The one from Autobiography of a Yogi, which is Kriya Yoga.
If you had to do something which you have never done before, what would it be?
I would want to explore the parts of the Himalayas that the special forces talk about. I think there's a lot of unexplored parts of our country where no human beings have gone in modern times.
The spiritual leader that you follow?
Yoganand Paramhans. He's not with us anymore. Maybe in the modern day, I'd probably say BK Shivani has really gripped my head since we had on the show.
Yeah. What was the one takeaway that you had from your conversation with BK Shivani?
If I just say it like this, maybe it'll be taken wrong by people, but the world is in a very dark place right now. And we're going to see a lot of changes and a lot of things are going to become intense before they become good. That's why we're seeing what we're seeing in the world right now.
So it's that the churn in the Kali Yuga, as they say it.
Yeah, there's an upheaval happening as we speak.
Beautiful. On that note, I should thank you very much, Ranveer Allahbadia, aka BeerBiceps. Thank you so much.
I had a lot of fun. Thank you guys.